It's the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. The lovely Terry is here, and we are ready to rock and roll. We have refreshments ready there. We're lined up. We're locked in.
We are the happy hour. Genius Zone. But it just so happens that I twisted your arm to get into the happy hour.
You did. You were very strategic. I like that.
Yes.
Now, how about you bring the talking stick a little bit closer if you could?
How
That'd be
about
wonderful.
that? That might be just a really good idea.
There we
Look
go.
at that. We're going to get there. We're going to get there, you guys. Can you hear me loud and
very
clear?
clear?
And I'm
very
as clear as mud?
indeed. Clear as mud. I haven't heard that one for a while. Hey, guess what? I don't know if you know this, but we've got a guest waiting in the wings, ready to come on. Would you like to do a big introduction?
I will, yes. Well, guys, NLP is obviously something that, maybe you don't know it. I shouldn't assume it, but that's what I do, neuro-linguistic programming and also hypnosis. Now, this specific lady understands it at the really neuroscientific level because really NLP is neuroscience.
Well, of course it is.
And when we're talking about the neuroplasticity of the brain, then, since the nervous system was the first thing that was laid down at birth and you're just sitting next to me breathing, your heart's pumping, you're not trying, you're not saying breathe. Okay,
no.
Okay,
Look,
cells work.
Look, I was blonde when I had hair, but I still could remember the basics of breathing, all right? So I'm not that dumb is what I'm saying. Come on.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So all of these things happen in autopilot.
Okay.
And therefore, that is a big piece of the puzzle of this story that this lady's going to talk about, which is the way she helped another person facilitate their own cure.
Okay.
And that was with terminal cancer. So with no further ado, this master NLP practitioner, this hypnotherapist, this beautiful woman is Caroline Kavanagh. Hello, Caroline.
Well, I'm going to say good morning because I'm at the other side of the planet from you and I'm sitting here quite jealous with those two glasses that you've got perched in front of you when actually all I've got is a mug of tea.
You can fix that, okay?
I can fix that, but there's standards. Come on, there's standards.
Well, some people say it's always 5 p.m. somewhere.
Oh, that good old chestnut. I love it.
And it's almost Friday as well, so.
Done. Exactly. We're all selling it. This is a great idea. Hey, lovely to have you here. Really, I'm looking forward to today. So you're in the UK, hey?
I am in the UK and we are having a bit of a weird thing that we don't see very much in the UK, and that's hot weather.
What?
Okay.
So you just love, I love, so loving being in the UK because if you get like 5 snowflakes fall, then the country comes to a stop. If it goes above 23 degrees, the country comes to a stop.
Now, I'm going to ask this. What is your heat wave? What is the temperature right now, roughly?
Right now, it is about 27 degrees.
That's not a heat wave.
I know. But for us, everyone's going, oh, I can't work. I can't breathe. Open all, because we don't have aircon, obviously. It's funny. Even my dogs, I've got 2 beautiful dogs. They're lying on the kitchen floor going, what is this? What's going on?
This is not what I ordered. It was not on the brochure, right? Yeah.
This is not what I'm used to.
Yes. So I'm going to kick off with the first question. And with this, you had undiagnosed anxiety as a teenager. And we know that, anxiety back in the day wasn't as well known about as it is today.
No,
so
different.
People didn't really understand about it. And obviously, there's some people out there, a lot of the listeners, and, specifically Edge Radio, they may be new to neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy. And I have a lot of respect for you, Caroline, because you said something very vital on our podcast, and that is that you need to know what you're doing. You can't just pick up a textbook. Imagine if a brain surgeon did that, just picked up a textbook and started to make massive changes to people's lives. But I'm going to ask you, what was the very essence and methodology and, I guess modality, if you will, that totally kind of made a massive difference in changing your life?
Yeah, it's something that is beautiful because it is so simple, and it is called reframing, which is just a technical word for saying looking at something from a different angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you see things, and we do this all of the time. You might get a perception of something, and then someone says, "Oh no, it's not like that. It's like this," and you go, "Oh yeah, I can see that now." That just is a reframe. And one of the most important things for me is reframing anxiety. It is deemed as such a negative thing that we have to quash and avoid, and we suffer from it. But the reality is we would suffer if we didn't have it, because the role of anxiety is to keep you safe. The reason we don't put a hand on something hot is because it will burn you. So we fear hot things because that keeps us safe. We don't go into environments where there's danger because you feel anxious, and the anxiety is a deterrent. So anxiety is a good thing. It keeps you safe. Now, I don't want to diminish, if I can even speak properly, that some people do genuinely suffer from anxiety, because that anxiety functionality has become what I term as uncalibrated. It's like your car is sitting on the drive in absolutely high revs, but you've still got the brake on.
You'd get that.
I certainly do.
Yeah. So the work that I do, it's not about throwing your car away. The car's not broken. It's about learning to drive the car properly so that you don't damage the car and you get where you want to be.
I like that. I mean, because when you said before about you're making the reference about the heat and burning yourself, right? Because when you first started talking about anxiety, it's something we need to have. My honest thought straight in my head was, no, you don't.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
To have it, thank you very much. There we go. We're enjoy your tea.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's true. That's my initial thought. But it's a great point. It really is. And look, you can't have a top without a bottom. Okay, you can't have a front without a back. Correct. So you know what? Well, anxiety's got a place.
And you can't have a wine without a clink.
That's right. Ching ching.
Ching ching.
Okay, stop rubbing it in, guys.
So what was it? So tell me, obviously with the reframe, I totally get that. Now, I'm not sure whether this is a reframe from the NLP model, but it's that one where you've got this really heated situation going on in a relationship. When people get annoyed with each other, and there's, you might be having anger, or you might be having frustration, or someone's really, really ticked you off, or you feel like they've hard done you. Have you ever had that, Aaron?
Often.
Where you feel like someone's done the wrong thing by you, and you feel really angry with them, and you start.
I'm just disappointed.
You start nursing and rehearsing it, and it starts going round and round, and they call it the judge, isn't it? Like the judge part of your brain.
I didn't know that. All right.
Well, with the kind of exercise with the saboteur and the sage we were talking about, so that's like the judge, and you've got to find that happy balance. But one of the things that was an absolute game changer for me is where I had, when I first met my now husband, and there were so many people that disagreed, right? And it really upset me. It really angered me that I didn't get the support that I really, really wanted, and maybe I did need. And that caused me to have some not so much savoury thoughts about some people that were very close to me. So I was thinking these bad thoughts, of course, right? And then, of course, guess what the first modality was? We had to step into the situation, but with the wiser eyes, hindsight always being 20/20 vision.
Always.
If you could go back and do it again kind of thing. And, you have the three situations where you have yourself being the one that, well, whether you're the victim or you're feeling, angry, then you've got the other person who is the person that's afflicting, and you move into each element of what they're thinking. So what are you thinking? What are they thinking?
Well, you're overthinking.
And what could be really going on here? What is the most likely thing? But is that kind of like a little bit of a reframe?
Yeah, it is kind of like a reframe. If we peel right the way back on what you were talking about there, Terry, our thoughts become our feelings. When someone says to you, "You make me angry," I'm sorry, that's just not true. Their action is their action, and it's how you're choosing to respond to it that is creating the anger. And again, that's quite hard for a lot of people to get their head around, but that is the fundamental truth, which is why you can have multiple different responses to exactly the same stimulus. If you could make someone laugh, everyone would be a comedian. But someone could tell a joke and you would get a multiple of different responses from the audience. Therefore, you can't make someone have an emotional reaction.
True.
So, but you create an atmosphere where people will choose that because it's the most direct path, I would tend to think, right? So, if somebody is quite negative and nasty towards you, but ultimately it's your decision, right? It's your decision where you take that.
But are you giving your power away?
Yes, you are.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
so
I
if
believe
somebody is, when they reckon when you're angry or you're holding this grudge against someone, they've got power over you still.
Yeah. I often hear that. I mean, look, people, that's really interesting. In my life, there's people I've let go of the anger, and I realised somebody, and I've used this term before, but it made a big difference to my life. Somebody said to me about someone who had done me wrong in a big, big way, and they said, "Why are you letting them live rent free in your head?" And like, charge the buggers, right? And ultimately, when I actually had that mindset,
that's a reframe.
It is. It really is. And when I thought, no, buggy, I'm not going to let you do that, and actually kind of let it go, did the old, let it go, let it go. It worked.
Yeah.
It actually worked. And I actually freed myself is what it comes down to. It wasn't about them in any way anymore. Like, I just don't care. It was actually made my life better. Yeah.
And
if you think about a line, at one end you've got full control, and at the other end, no control. At the end where you've got full control, there's no anxiety. But the further you move towards the other end where you're losing control, you will have more and more anxiety. And we often people say, "Oh, I have anger issues." Anger is just the fight element of the fight or flight response. It's still triggered by vulnerability.
That's interesting. So, if you are in control, what you're saying is if you are in control, that is the sort of prime position to be in.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And yet there has been so many elements that I've been listening to this week where it's, well, let go of control. What if you could just, let it go, like you said? And there's a huge reframe that happened for one of your clients, and that's what this topic is all about. And before people start jumping the gun and getting a bit overexcited about, having a cure for cancer, no, we are not saying that we have a cure for cancer. What we are talking about here is a case study and a very imperative scenario where there was neuroplasticity that was with neuroscience, where the body and the mind was able to adjust, and the person that Caroline was actually working with was terminally ill, with a diagnosis being told she had 6 months to live.
Wow.
And Caroline, that story is over to you, girlfriend.
Thank you so much, love. And yes, I think to reiterate, this story is purely about the power of the mind, the potential that the mind can achieve when it's directed in a certain way. So the lady that we're referring to has the BRCA gene, which is the female gene that increases the risk of female-related cancers. Okay. She had 3 lots of breast cancer. She'd also had ovarian cancer. So her body had been changed physically in many ways, double mastectomy, hysterectomy. Wow. And a 5th tumor came up. And she came to me At this point, it was a terminal diagnosis. No treatment was available because her body could not take any more chemo or radiotherapy. And she came to me and said, Caroline, I can't fight this anymore. And this was it was actually a friend. And I said to her, well, I'm not ready to lose you, so I'm going to fight with you. And long story short, she had experienced hypnosis before, so it was something that she had a degree of familiarity with. So we went through a hypnotic induction, which is purely a way of relaxing. It changes the energetic patterns within the mind. So far away from most people's perception of clucking like a chicken on a stage show.
Oh, yeah.
This is just a way of relaxing the mind. And as I say, it changes how the energy within the mind works. And she had a belief that we had been discussing, that she'd lived 40 or so years of her life without having cancer. The BRCA gene had always been there, but something had turned that gene on and cancer cells were being created.
Mutating.
Therefore, the logic being, if it had been turned on, you can turn it off again.
Makes sense to me.
There's the reframe.
Yeah.
That's the reframe.
Yeah, that's the reframe. Is and not only reframe, there's a logic there.
Mm-hmm.
If you had been born with, I don't know, brown hair because you've got the brown hair gene, you're not going to suddenly become blonde because it's been there for life. But she had a gene that suddenly turned on.
Well, I was going to say something else there. Yes, so I love that deep inside that hypnosis trance, because a lot of people, firstly, they think, oh, I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to lose control. What am I giving myself over to? But the fact is that is not the case.
Absolutely.
The style that Caroline and me both do, myself both do, is where the client does all the work.
Yep.
So the induction, I was actually training inductions this week, and that's the most important part of it. And I was telling the people that were training, I said, look, you can spend an hour, maybe 50 minutes relaxing your client, just speaking to them, getting them present, getting them into their body, getting them into their awareness, and literally just going deeper and deeper and deeper with them, and just telling them that you're going deeper and counting them down and doing all the hypnotic inductions, which this is not a training here.
Sure.
And then guess what, guys? What? You only need to spend 5 minutes telling them what's going to change. And guess what you're telling them?
What are you telling them?
Exactly what they said.
Right. So you're just repeating back to them.
You are just repeating back, and you're saying, you're stating the facts, and it's just and you can even speak fast. So while you're speaking slowly, going into that beautiful induction. But getting back to your story, Caroline, is I had this when we were on the podcast together. Now I think we've got some people from the community that listen to it that have some questions. But when you were telling the story about how she went inside, and when we say as a hypnosis, you go inside, you're going inside your mind.
Okay.
And she went inside and she started just switching off all the lights. She started, going, and I visually had this picture. And do you want to just open that up for us a little bit so the audience knows what the heck I'm talking about? So you've taken her into a trance. You've moved her into that beautiful, relaxed, space. And now talk to me about, her visualization.
Almost exactly as you said, Terry. She was deep inside her mind, going around and literally turning off all of the BRCA genes. So she had created that own imagery and was journeying around, switch, switch, switch. And in a very short space of time, she said, yep, all done, opened her eyes, and that was it. Trance state was over. So that's an important thing, again, to recognize. She decided it was done. She opened her eyes. It wasn't a suggestion from me because she was in full control. So as we said at the start, she had a 6-month terminal diagnosis at that point. That was over 12 years ago.
Right.
Last time I spoke to her was just over 18 months ago, where she still has regular MRI scans to check for tumours, and they had found some shadows on her lungs. And of course, the assumption by the medical practitioners was she'd got lung cancer. And she just smiled at me and said, "Oh, they just don't understand. I don't make cancer cells anymore, Caroline." And sure enough, they did a biopsy and there was just some infection, and she's perfectly well and healthy.
That is just
So good to hear.
so
It really is.
amazing. You know, one of the things, and it's not about, you know, cancer or anything like that, but, you know, I remember this client coming in to see me in clinic, and they'd had a car accident and they were in absolute massive amount of pain. And it was several months later. And so guess what we did?
So,
We took them back to before the accident, didn't we? See, now let's just stay here in the present for a moment. So in the present, they were doing pain, right?
Right.
You know how the body does pain? But do you know that pain is also a pattern?
oh, no question about it.
It is a
yeah.
pattern.
Yeah.
So, you know, like somebody will come in and they'll say, "Oh, I've got a sore back again." I'll say, "You're really good at that, aren't you? You're just so good."
I could go pro. I'm going,
You
well,
know, so what if you could actually just, you know, release that? So it's breaking the pattern. And interestingly enough, because they'd had a break, I think it was in their arm, I can't remember, it was years and years ago. So I actually did it through timelining, but it was also under hypnosis. So I kind of brought the two things together. So when we sort of flew back to before the accident, the number one thing they had to do is, of course, learn, because everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
And that's what a lot of people like Carolyn and myself believe, that everything, oh God, I'd go mad if I didn't believe it, jeepers. But, you know, what was the higher purpose? Because there is always a higher purpose for everything. And once they learn that, and then it's like, well, let's do a sliding door. You seen that show, Sliding Doors?
Yeah.
And you actually didn't go down that street. You went down another one.
I mean, I do think about the old sliding doors. I think of how different my life would have been if I'd made some pivotal different decisions, right?
Yeah.
And it's true, but like ultimately, the old, we say it so many times, you know, do things happen to you or do they happen for you? And obviously, you know, these are lessons we need to learn in life, right?
But if you pretend, so people can become exceptional at what they do through the visualization of their head and practicing. Like they even did they actually did stats on a group of basketball players. And there was one lot of basketball players who were sitting there with a coach that obviously does similar work and visually taking them through the entire element of being that top league person.
Yep.
And they came out as well as the people that were practicing. Obviously, practicing is going to be ultimately better, but they weren't too far behind. And it's a bit like the coaches that one coach, there's a story in, you know, history about they changed the timing of a marathon run and they said that the marathon run was done in just slightly less because the best runner at that point, you know, in time had done that, so no one else is going to get there because they are the best, right? And so the coach exaggerated and actually told the team that, hey, someone beat it. And you know what they did? They did it because of the power of the mind.
Oh, 100% agree. And I'll go on. Sorry.
There's evidence of that in history. I mean, for a long time, the perception was a human being could not do a 4-minute mile.
That's right.
Bannister broke it, and soon after that, loads of people were breaking it. You know, physiology hadn't changed. The ability to train hadn't changed, but the perception of what was possible had.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually thrown my little two bobs worth in on this one. Is many years ago, I was a rally driver, okay, and I went from a 2-wheel drive car to a turbo 4-wheel drive car, and went from, you know, a particular level of seriousness to a completely, you know, off the charts monster of a vehicle, right? And where I'm going to go on this is that, so I started racing the much faster car, and obviously I'm driving a lot faster, okay? But when I went and did events back in the old car, in the slower car, well, guess what? I was a lot faster because my brain had retrained that, okay, it's I'm physically capable of doing these speeds. I can process, I can control, I can make this all work. What I'd done is I'd moved my limit, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? That older car hadn't changed a bit. But guess what? It was going a damn sight faster. The stage times were getting a lot quicker. And it was just purely and simply the mental side, because before I thought this car is capable of this time, of this speed, of this performance. And when I realized that my mind was now capable of raising to a higher level, guess what? I took the whole damn thing with it. So yeah, we set these limits on ourselves. We're the people who hold us
what
back.
else you did?
What's that?
You bent time.
Bent time.
Yeah.
Really?
Time bender.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I do that at the casino?
Yeah. But this is the whole thing. It's we do time in our mind, we do stress in our mind. Everything is in our mind. So if problems are just a problem of an imagination, then so are solutions.
Yeah.
We can make them up. So, by going back in time and making that change, okay, so in reality, it's not true, that didn't happen, all the rest of it. However, you've tricked your subconscious. And isn't that the thing, Caroline? Isn't your friend, your client, the one that turned off that BRCA gene? She tricked her subconscious mind.
Absolutely. And the doctor that she was working with at the time is one of the leading ones in the UK. And even she turned around and said, there is no other logic apart from the fact that you have turned off your BRCA gene.
That is amazing.
So whilst science can't explain it, doesn't mean it's not possible. We create our own reality. So, just a little exercise, if you've got a couple of seconds and people that are listening, focus now on how your feet feel, either in your shoes or against the ground if you're bare feet.
Bit crowded, actually.
That's your reality right now because you've just moved your focus and you're creating your reality.
Okay.
Come back into your body.
Yeah, it's not just in your body. It's wherever you place your focus becomes your reality in that moment. So if you place all your focus on a thought that isn't actually real, that also becomes your reality and your mind will respond accordingly, which is why you can lay awake at 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about something you're going to do the next day because your body is treating that thought as if it's real and pumping you full of cortisol and adrenaline.
Yeah, problem of
change your thoughts to what is real at the moment. I'm lying in bed, I'm completely safe. Your body will respond to that as being the reality. So we took it to that nth degree. And the reality is you don't make cancer genes anymore. And her body went, yeah, okay, I can do that. That's her reality now.
It's certainly been her experience, which is, yeah.
And I've seen lots of miracles through this, and Dr. Joe Dispenza will be able to tell you as well how he has seen those miracles. And it's not about the facilitator, by the way, guys. It's about you. It's about your subconscious mind. It's I'm finding those little miracles even happening with my husband at the moment, and little miracles that weren't happening before, and people are scratching their head and they're sort of saying things like, well, what are you giving him? Like, what's that drink you're giving him? Because all of a sudden he's gone from having, my husband with dementia who's in full-time care, tonic-clonic seizures. Do you know what they are? It's where the whole body literally throws its arms and everything up in the air and they fly out of the chair.
Oh, wow.
And he's done that and shaking and all of that to nothing. It's like, what happened? Where did it go? And, even the people today, because I don't want to say that was because of anything I did, but, consistency, belief, and, someone with dementia is prime target because they're not in their logic anymore. They can't think straight. They can't do the normal. So, you're talking into their subconscious mind. That's the only thing possible. But I think we're going to get over to some questions now, Aaron.
Let's jump into these questions. So let's bring up Jake's question. Hello, Jake. Here we go. Jake is from New York. I love a question from New York. Just makes me feel exotic for some strange reason. Jake, is this like meditation or is it hypnosis, something deeper? How does it actually work on the body?
So can I just open that up for you, Caroline? I think from just knowing this guy, he is wanting to know whether just, you know how you can get people that just do a normal meditation, no accreditation required. You know, is hypnosis a deeper element? Is that what it was? And you know, what do you feel was that part that really helped your client just become healthy again?
So if I can try and explain this through perhaps going into physics. So we know, for example, let me go back to my dogs. My dogs can hear things that I can't because their ability to listen, their ability to hear is different. We have certain brainwaves functions. At the moment, when you're awake and busy, you're in what's called beta brainwave. Okay. When you're relaxed, you know, maybe watching, you know, TV, sitting on your sofa, you go into alpha. When you start to go into what we call a trance state, which you tip into in things like meditation, that is called theta. There's delta, which is when we sleep, but then there's another level, which is called gamma. And gamma is what you tip into when you go into hypnosis. So it's all, I would put an umbrella term over all of this. It's relaxation, but there's a spectrum through from light relaxations through to very deep. Hypnosis is purely a mechanism of helping you get into that brainwave pattern.
And it's a beautiful feeling.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've just had some, and I was really scrutinising with the person I chose, and she's got a PhD practically in it. Okay. And you know, it wasn't like I was asleep; I was conscious. But you're like, yes, I'm here. I love this. It feels so good. Right. Like you got no idea how it's like bliss, isn't it? It's when you're in that state and you can go anywhere and you can be anything, and you're almost tapped in, tuned in, turned on to your God consciousness or that divine element that can come through and, you know, speak into your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if we start getting into some more spiritual realms, there is the belief that when you go into that extremes of the gamma brainwave, you are actually connecting to a higher consciousness. Whether you want to call that the universe, God, you know, I'm not too worried about the label that's put onto it, but it is recognized as a higher level of energy that you can tap into, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Great
well
comment.
said.
Let's jump into the next question here. So our next question, we've probably already covered this to a degree, but let's sort of, you know, run through it again. Why not indeed? So Maria from Sydney, thank you for the question. Now, Maria asks, what is the subconscious and how does it know how to turn off something like cancer?
That's actually a really good question.
Straight down the line. I like
That is good. That's good. So I'm just wondering though, subconscious and how does it know how to turn off? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to have a go at that, Caroline?
So we have two parts of the mind. The frontal lobes in our forehead is the part of the brain that we call the conscious mind. It's rational, logical, deductive, and it's what separates us from most of the animal kingdom. Mm-hmm. The subconscious mind, which is often referred to as the lizard brain, is the very primitive part of our mind. Yeah. And that's the part that it will run the body. So you started this saying, I'm not thinking about making your heart beat. You're not thinking about breathing, although everyone is now thinking of breathing because I've just put it in your conscious mind.
Don't think of a pink elephant.
Exactly. And it'll slip away at the moment. So anything that we are not consciously engaged with is being run subconsciously. And a great example of that is showering yourself in the morning. Most people will get in the shower, get out clean, but they've been completely unaware of what they've been doing because their conscious mind is thinking about what they're going to do during the day. Whereas when you
even worse, have you ever driven somewhere, got there and thought, which route did I even take? Like because you're in, that's called autopilot.
Yeah. Well, we all do that to a degree, don't we?
We do, but I mean food.
Yeah.
Look at food. People do it with food. They don't think about, you know, when they're eating popcorn in the movie theater, they're just eating it and then they're like, where did my popcorn go? Like, did I eat that all? Yeah, it's interesting.
So I liken the subconscious to being very much like a 4-year-old. It's very much in the minute. It's doing whatever. It's not really thinking about what's happened or what's going to happen. It's in the minute, and it's focused on what it's doing now. And just like a 4-year-old, you can tell it that someone in a red suit is going to come down the chimney and leave presents on the 25th of December. And they go, brilliant, okay. Yeah. So the subconscious is very suggestible. And as long as the suggestions that you're working with are positive, and you're working with a professional that is only going to be, working with you in that positive interest,
sure.
Then the suggestion that I gave this particular lady was, you can turn those genes off. And her brain went, yeah, I can do that. It's the rational, logical mind that a lot of your listeners are now going, yeah, but is that really possible? That's the conscious mind.
Love that. So good.
Look, I try and do that on the all conscious mind kind of thing because, I have been prone to sort of, I've got one of those brains that doesn't switch off. Just go, right?
And say that again.
Bit of a problem, which typically means, I don't sleep well. I have very short, last night I slept 4 hours, right? Okay, that's not unusual at all. Now,
a bit like Maggie Thatcher. She only needed about 3 hours of sleep a night.
Well, she did a lot more with her time than I've done with mine. So there we go. She was winning on that one. So like when my mind is really, really busy, what I have started to do over the last few years of my life, this is relatively new to me. I don't tell myself off as such, but I say, why are you wasting your time thinking about this? Like, this is not productive. Like, let it go, move on to something else. I think about something else, or I use other things as a distraction so I don't actually think about that because, as I say, otherwise it just goes. But I do ask myself consciously, is this serving me? Right?
That's a good one.
Yeah. And if it's not, then I hope that I'm telling and talking my subconscious into, putting that on autopilot.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Very good. I reckon you're getting better.
Am I?
Yeah. He could be training this soon, I reckon.
No.
In fact, I was going to ask him to train it with me.
Not on 4 hours
here
sleep.
in Perth. Not tonight. Not tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Anyway, another question. I think we've got one more, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got actually a couple. Now this question is from Lisa in the UK. So, look at this. Local, you can just run around and say hi.
Hi, Lisa.
It's a tidy place. Now, thank you for the question here, Lisa. So, can your thoughts really affect your health? Like, can changing how you think actually help you heal?
100%. 100%.
Is the Pope Catholic?
Now, I'm going against you two little woohoos here, right? Okay, with all your, mystic caring and thinking and whatever. I was the unbelievable cynic on this, and I used to think, what a lot of wobbly dog, right? Okay,
wobbly dog.
I don't care. I'm just going to invent words right now. I used to think there's no way that I can, change my health with my thoughts. Then I gave it a go, okay, and started to think in a more physically healthy way and all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm clearly not in great condition, but I do really well with what I've got, right? But it did make a difference. So whenever if I feel a flu coming on, okay, I do this. I consciously go, I'm too busy for the flu. I don't have time for this. No, sorry, body, it's not on. I'm not going to get the flu. I'm not going to get a cold. And guess what? I don't get the cold, right? It doesn't happen because I tell my body, no.
But that's probably why you got it in the first place.
What?
The flu. Or you tried to get it because your subconscious going, how are we going to slow Aaron down?
Yeah.
What are we going to do to get this guy to just stop?
Have a bloody holiday,
I'm
mate.
telling you, it's sneaky.
It is, but what I'm getting, I know, I love what you're saying, but I think that, when you feel yourself getting a bit dodgy around the gills, it's easy to go, and, whinge your way into it and allow it to happen. Whereas I've found in my life anyway, I can't say this for other people, but certainly my feeling is, I've made that decision and said, no.
Good.
Not this week. Not going to happen.
That is so good. And was it
I can answer Lisa's question in 2 words.
Yep. Great.
Placebo effect.
Oh, okay. Come on.
So if doctor's giving you a sugar pill that tells you this is going to make you better, there is reams now of scientific evidence that the placebo effect is real.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, that's why they have it, isn't it? Even in science and biology and chemistry. Was it you that I did the podcast with where we did the water analogy of water?
No.
Not sure. Okay, so the water analogy. So this is a classic.
Yeah.
So they got people to get water, and because our body is made up of, what is it, 90%
Oh, I've
apparently?
heard
It's
all
a
sorts of
huge
stuff.
amount. Anyway, lots, it's a huge number. And, one group of people looked into the water and just gave love and just spoke love and just felt love. And then the other group did the opposite. So they did all the hate and all the rest of it. That water changed colour and all kinds of dimensions through the thought. And Deepak Chopra, I don't know whether you've heard of Deepak Chopra,
Absolutely.
Caroline. Hey?
Yeah. Yes, very much
Yeah.
so. I follow his work closely, yeah.
Of course you would have. Yeah, so he talks about ageless, actually I've got ageless mind, timeless body, but I think it's timeless mind, ageless body. And he says that the subconscious is eavesdropping on our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts about the answer to that question?
To Lisa's question, yes, absolutely. Your thoughts really can affect your health. What you think, it's almost like what we were doing earlier. What you think becomes your reality. So if you think I'm going to get ill, I'm going to get ill. That 4-year-old goes, yeah, I can do illness for you. There you go.
I'll knock one up.
Yeah. What do you want? Yeah. And I've seen that even around someone having the belief, oh, someone sneezed. I was in the lift and someone sneezed. I'm going to get a cold now.
Mm-hmm.
There are viruses around us 100% of the time. And yes, the quality of your immune system is going to be impactful, but you can talk yourself into being ill and you can talk yourself into being out of ill.
And don't you think, though, that when a person is stressed and they're not dealing with their stress properly or they're not dealing with their anxiety properly, it's then sending that, what's that really bad hormone? Is it,
Cortisol.
Cortisol. It sort of flies through your body and that kind of makes all these really bad chemicals in your body and really gets your immune system to go down. So you can't get away from stress. We've all got it. I do it every day, right? I'm pretty good at it, actually. In fact, I might even go looking for it some days.
I reckon you might.
Not an unusual pattern, by the way, guys. However, you've got to know how to deal with it. So it's okay to get stressed because you're going to do it. And it's okay to feel feelings because you're going to feel them as well. However, what would you say, Caroline, to the person listening here? What would you say to them to do to process their thoughts when they are doing stress, to combat some of that, stuff that causes our immune systems to just, kind of plummet?
Mm-hmm. Stress, again, is another word that we've misconstrued as being a bad thing. We need stress. The original word is distress. That's what causes us harm.
Right.
So if you went in a gym and you did, in my case, probably 10 press ups, my arms would fall off. But I'm putting my biceps and triceps under stress because that stress causes them to get stronger. So I'm choosing to. So stress isn't a bad thing when it's within a level of tolerance. Distress is when you go over those boundaries. So stress isn't a bad thing. A bit like anxiety isn't a bad thing. It's all about that calibration. So yes, when you get into distress, that starts to have a negative impact on the immune system physiologically. But, and there's the obvious things. What can you do to take some of those stressors out of your life? Whatever that may be. But our perception is still a massive piece of the jigsaw in this picture of how you perceive stress. And that's where we come back to everything that we've been talking about, is how you perceive things. What lens you are looking through is going to have a significant impact in how you then feel towards it. Your feelings are then going to create chemical reactions in your body.
Absolutely.
I want to ask about was it cortisol, did you say?
Yeah, cortisol,
okay.
Yeah.
I hear this popping up, people talking about it, so I'm curious on that one. Are there things you can do that will benefit you there that might break down that cortisol?
Relax.
Oh,
Yeah, well, relax. Like talk to the hand. If you've got someone that's really, really stressed out, I'll never forget when I first started doing NLP, because with the practitioner's level, it's kind of more, it's playful, it's very, very playful,
okay.
and it's fun. And one of the things, it was an exaggeration. Somebody walks in, but you know them really well, and they're a friend, and they're stressed out of their head,
Yep.
and you can't break the ice with them, and they're just really inside their head. And I could remember I had this thing, and because what it meant is moving their body, you shift their body, and you got to do it. You got to make sure you know them well enough.
Right.
Don't just do it to a stranger in the street, but you sort of get them to shift, because if you hold your body, like when you're stressed or when you're sad or when you're in any kind of state, you are holding your body in a certain way.
Okay.
So when you shift their body and you get them to look, that's a kind of a reframe, isn't it, in a way? And I'll never forget, I had this meeting with these people, and I was really playful in NLP, and it was my first week doing the practitioners, and I was absolutely having a ball. And I had to have this serious meeting with people that were really trying to make a point with me. And I could see they had it all figured out in their head, what they were going to say. It was all contemplated. It was going to be a really important meeting. So you know what? Guess what I did?
What did you do, Terry?
They walked in, and I ran up and I grabbed them like a playful puppy dog, all three of them, and spun them around. Now, what do you think, Caroline? What do you think that did?
I've got a lovely picture in my head now.
Okay, so what did
I
it do?
had to. Well, yeah. After you got back from the asylum, what happened?
They'd have laughed. They'd have laughed. They'd have changed the state.
Breaking the pattern. You are pattern interruption. It's a pattern interruption. And so that train that they were going down was broken. I mean, you want to do that to a politician when you really want to.
I know a few. I want to more than spin them around, let me tell you. But there we go.
Yeah. But,
a little tip that I'd share with everyone. Music is a very powerful stimulus for all of us. Hearing is the first sense that develops in utero, and we understand it's the last one that fades in our last moments.
Wow.
And music is really powerful. So I encourage all of my clients to put together a playlist. It need only be 3 or 4 songs that have meaning for you.
Okay.
So I have a song by Sia that I did a parachute jump a few years ago. I got back in my car, and Sia, I'm Alive is the first track that came along, and I sat in my car and roared my head off because it was just so poignant. I've also got I am a secret. I'm not even a secret. I'm a very overt Rocky Horror fan. You cannot be depressed when you're dancing to the Time Warp.
You can't. It is physically impossible.
Yeah.
So, but everyone needn't actually be a Rocky Horror fan. Whatever songs have meaning for you. I love Latin music. Put a Latino dance on, and I will start jigging, even if I don't intend to. My body responds. So these are all just examples of pattern interrupts. It puts your physiology in a different state. And listening to a couple of tracks, 5 minutes, can reduce stress.
Yeah.
And we carry that playlist around with you 24/7.
And I wonder if Richard Bandler and John Grinder, the founders of NLP, actually invented, when they were doing the fast phobia cure, and they sort of do a little bit of EMDR, which is like the rapid eye movement when you're breaking trauma with your clients. And what they do is they would always get them to, as they were breaking it, they would then suddenly get them to imagine the Benny Hill show music in the background. Yeah, that'd be that song that they play because it would break the state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that particular music it always makes me giggle. I love that. I've got a strange place in my life. I use that music. So there you go. We have one more question. We've actually run mega over time, so really sorry to do this to you, Lance, from New Zealand, mate, but I really want to answer this. Well, actually, not me, but I'd love for yourselves to answer this because Lance has got a great question. I've always been fascinated by NLP, and he's an engineer. Good man. Now, would it benefit me to learn the practitioner's course, since I have no intention of actually becoming a coach?
Well,
thoughts?
you know what? Do you know what? I would say, I don't know about you, Caroline, but the majority of people that I trained in an NLP workshop were not going to be coaches, but they were going to be incredible. Like they had a mission and they, there were teachers or they were, even if they were people that were at home impacting their families and things like that. So I reckon personally, NLP is life skills 101. But come on, let's hear it from you, Caroline.
100% with you, Terry. I would love to see the skills that are taught in NLP actually being on the curriculum in primary schools throughout the world.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that one. I really do. I think that if kids learnt to frame things differently, you think about all the horrible things about, anxiety, like kids have really bad anxiety and issues and suicidal thoughts and all of that horrible things. If you could learn at an early age to reframe negative things or events in your life, imagine how, just what a massive plus that would be to your life, the whole direction of it.
100%. Yeah.
It could save lives.
I think so.
Yeah, love it.
And that little exercise that we did, Terry, on the podcast of chunking up, start to look at the similarities that you have with someone rather than the differences. We wouldn't be having the wars around the world that we have at the moment.
That's right.
Do you reckon you could get, Iran and Israel to be...
Good luck with that.
Okay, good luck with that. I think that might be a bit over the top. But, hey, thank you so much for coming on this show. Have you had fun? Everybody
I'm still very jealous. I might just go and open a bottle of fizz anyway because... Well, it's almost 11 o'clock here. That's almost lunchtime, isn't it?
It is. Come on again, Caroline. But next time when I've had more than 4 hours sleep and maybe 2 or 3 glasses of this, then we'll really have a show.
I would love to come on again and talk with you.
This guy, everyone that comes on this radio show, they're like, oh my gosh, when can I come on again, Terry? That was just so much fun.
We love what we do.
Yeah.
We're very lucky. Very lucky indeed.
Yeah.
Some people are out there working.
My answer to that would be, it's not luck. You've created your reality. So well done for the thoughts you've done.
Very, very sweet.
And on that note, I'm going to anchor you. Yep.
Done.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Everyone who's watching, I have noticed, by the way, we can't see every feed. Obviously, this is just not how the tech works. But I have noticed a little message telling me that we have a lot more people watching it and commenting on other sites. So I really appreciate that. Through the week, we'll have a bit of a look at those questions and comments and turn them into, comments and questions for next week, I reckon. Thank you, Caroline. You've been an absolute delight to have.
Go and share it on your site too, Caroline, and Edge Radio Australia.
And go drop some scratch into that too.
And if you wanna search me out on social media and put the questions my way, I'll answer any I can.
Awesome. Where can we get you on the socials?
So on socials, probably the easiest thing is just go through my website, which is carolinekavanagh.co.uk. And then from there, you can link to whichever platform that you prefer to use.
Easy.
Wonderful. Love it. Thank you for being part of the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.